over 10% has been knocked off the wholesale oil price in just a week. Will it mean cheaper fuel for motorists or cheaper fuel for homeowners as well as things get a bit colder? She says living out in the country, Adam, and relying on these things. What's the story?
Self-interest comes in
small amount.
Well, yeah, the oil price is coming down now. Clearly, the petrol, the pump price for petrol in this country, a lot of it is in tax. But still, the RAC says £1 a litre could be in sight. James Spencer is Managing Director of Portland Fuels, wholesale fuel trader. Morning, James.
Good morning.
Well, there we go. I did steal a bit of your thunder. I mean, tax makes up an awful lot of the pump price, doesn't it? But is £1 a litre feasible?
I suppose the easy answer there is when in the 90s in the oil industry, when I was first in the oil industry, the oil price went to $7 a barrel. And nobody was walking around saying that was the end of the world, so of course it could easily get onto £1 a litre. In terms of numerical values, $2.50 a barrel is equivalent to about 1 pence per litre. Pump prices are about £1.10 at the moment, so you're only looking at maybe $3 or $4 a barrel drop, and then you get down to the pound. But of course the key question is whether the drop in crude oil price would be manifested in the pump price, and there are a number of different factors that go into the pump price. It's not just a straight correlation between the Brent crude price.
Yeah, which of course a lot of that is oil. Just from your perspective, why is the oil price still falling? Is it because the world simply doesn't need as much oil as it did a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we say it's still falling, I mean, it's not falling at anything like the kind of rate that it was this time last year. In general, oil is kind of sat at between $40 and $50 a barrel, almost as if the markets are looking for a kind of direction. Fundamentally, there's still too much supply. You've got OPEC, pumping out maximum amount of production. The fracking wells in North America are still pumping out maximum production, and at the same time, whilst demand is still growing, by the way, I think that's a very important fact to say. It's just the pace of growth is slightly less than it was. So at the moment we've got very much a supply driven picture. There's more oil in the world than is needed.
What's your forecast though, James? I mean, as we head potentially towards £1 a litre, is this going to last in the long term?
I'd probably be I think it'll stay where it is probably for the next 6 months. I think the back end of next year is a more interesting question. I think there is only so long that the fracking community can pump out the oil at these low prices. I mean, two factors. One, a lot of the frackers will have hedged, which means they have locked in forward selling prices at a much higher level, but we don't know when those hedges will come to an end. But typically hedges go on for 12 to 18 months, so that protection, if you like, will go. And secondly, the interesting one is interest rates. If interest rates rise in the US, which is a likely scenario, how much of these independent fracking companies, how much have they borrowed, and will their borrowing suddenly start to make the price of oil a bit too difficult to live with? So maybe more interesting in the second half of the year, but for the moment I see the price not really doing anything too exciting.
And one final thought, I suppose lower fuel prices should mean lower prices in the shops because distribution costs go down.
For sure, although distribution is a low part. I mean, transport in general, logistics is so competitive that it is a small element of the price. That being said, for Rachel, who takes home heating oil, she shouldn't complain because most of the stats show it is the most effective way of heating your house.
Really?
At the moment. Absolutely.
Oh, it doesn't feel like it.
Unit for unit, it's the cheapest.
That's
although
reassuring.
That wasn't the case this time last year, so it may be short-lived.
We end on a happy note. James, thank you. James Spencer there from Portland Fuels.
Thank you, James. You can come again.